guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about why some people don't get hired in medical coding. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, I will start off by saying this. Health information is a very unique field in that it does have a lot of requirements and you do have to have a lot of education. So there's a lot of investment on the part of the coder in the beginning because you have to go through school, you've got to get training, and then you got to go out and find this job. Well, not all medical coding programs are equal. There are some medical coding programs that are better than others, but it really boils down to the individual. How much is the individual willing to study? How much is the individual willing to invest to learn medical billing and coding, right? So that's the first thing out of the way. Now, employers insist on, everybody needs experience. If you look in the job listings, you will see that everybody asks for experience. Because if you have a candidate who has no experience versus having experience, the employer, who obviously needs somebody badly, is going to want to go with the candidate that has experience. Now, they do hire brand new medical coders, but you have to be persistent. You have to do your part and study. So one of the reasons why people don't get hired on as medical billers and coders is that they cannot pass an assessment test that is given to them by the employer. If you are lucky enough to get this test, that means they don't have any other qualified candidates and they're going to start looking at the brand new people. So we're going to go ahead and give these new people a chance. And they give you a test. And if you cannot pass this test, then you just proved their point of new people. So this is where studying on your own and supplementing what you do learn in your program with the books that I recommended, the workbooks that I've recommended, so that way you can have some fighting chance when you get out there to, be able to get in, because you're not going to be out there completely with no knowledge. You're going to have a lot of additional things that you have been doing if you choose to do them. There's a lot of people that think as soon as I get my certification, I don't have to study anymore. And this is not true. When it comes to medical billing and coding, you have to continue to study. It doesn't matter, because every single year, the codes get updated, the guidelines get updated, there's a lot of deletions and additions. So things change over time. So you have to be willing to continuously be learning. Now, this is a rewarding field, but it takes effort and it takes hard work. And you're not always going to see it especially in the beginning. But eventually, when you do get your foot in the door, you will get in, all right? But you have to be persistent. Another reason that people don't get hired in medical coding is because they cannot pass a background check. You do have to be able to pass a background check when you are applying for these jobs. They will ask if you have any history of anything in your past that they will find when they're running a background check. And you have to be honest with them, because they will find it. Now, if you have something like identity theft or anything like that, that is a no-go, because you're literally dealing with people's private information. Not just their health histories, but also their insurance information and all their private information. So they really want people who don't have that in their background, okay? Anything that's violent, that's also a no-go as well. And there's a lot of other things that they look for, but those are the two main things that they're looking for when it comes to past history, right? And people will ask me, well, what about if it's credit? Not really. They don't really do that, but they're really looking for any offenses that you've had, if you have any, right? I've had to go down to the DMV and pull my driving record before too, so for a coding job, which I thought was a little weird, but okay. I'll give it to you if you need it. And so, they did. It was very thorough. I mean, they really do check you out, when you're going through there. So that's another reason that some people can't get hired, is because they have that in their background, maybe. Or that's just another reason, right? That, sometimes people don't mention that when they're complaining that they can't get a job. They don't mention the fact that they've had an assessment test and they failed it, or they've had a background check and they failed that as well. So when it comes to, just to back up a little bit, when it comes to those pre-assessment tests, sometimes what they consider fail is if you get an 85. So while a 85 is like a B, right? When they're looking for accuracy in a coder, they're going to expect that coder to be above in the 90s, okay, depending on where you're applying at. The accuracy standard for my facility is 97%. So that's saying that every single question that they give you, you're going to have to be able to pass that. And that's the thing that you have to be prepared with, okay, when you're out there and you're applying for these jobs. The studying does not stop as soon as you get that certification, all right? The other thing is the location of where you want to work. For some people that are brand new getting into this field, they are insisting on working remotely. Blue, I want to work remote, and that's all the messages that I hear. I got 5 of those messages today. I want to work remote. You've never been a medical coder before. No, but I really want to work remote. I can do this. Okay, book coding and real world coding are 2 different things. Because now you're not just learning about medical coding, but you're learning about the electronic medical record, right? The electronic medical record, then you got to learn their system, then you got to learn their version of the encoder. So there's more things that you have to learn. And it's a lot when somebody just drops in out of nowhere with no prior experience. Before the pandemic happened, you had to have experience because they did not want to have to train people who were working at home, who were brand new. So you had to have 3 to 5 years before you even got in and before you even thought about being in remote coding, all right? But now with the pandemic, they said, okay, well, people can get hired on because we still need coders. And while that's understandable, it's not always best for the development of the coder. Now, you need to have that time with other medical coders to develop well, to be able to ask questions, to have a mentor to lean on. Because when you are having to sit here and type out a question or call a person on the phone, you're stopping them from working and you're impacting their ability to be able to do their job. And all the while, they want people to have experience because of that reason. So if you are only applying for remote positions, and these facilities, they want people to be at the facility. Some do, and some are willing to do this hybrid schedule. Some are willing to hire people to work remotely, but they want them to be trained on site for a month or 2, and then they'll send them home. That's okay, because at least you have some time to be in a place where you can learn from somebody, you can ask them questions, you can spend time there learning. And trust me, it's much better than if you are just thrown into the deep end of the pool and like, hey, I only want to work at home. And some people think, oh, well, I want to travel and do this. And then they mention that in the interview. Well, what do you think is going to happen? You're not going to get hired because we have to be able to securely connect to the internet. You cannot be just connecting to Wi-Fi all willy-nilly. And somebody asked me, well, how do they know? Trust me, when it comes to workers who work at home independently and they're looking at all of because the computer comes from the company. And that computer that comes from the company is going to be able to trace every single thing that you do. And it's going to know the location of that computer as well if you're sitting here connecting to all different kinds of IP addresses and things like that. So that's something that you can't do that, guys. They have these security things in place for a reason. This private health information has to stay private. It cannot just be exposed, by accident because you want to sit there and travel around. Okay, so that's something that you really need to consider. A lot of people will sell the field of medical coding as, oh, this is great if you want to stay at home, if you want to raise your kids and you can just work at home. There's plenty of other things that you can do online that are not medical coding. That is not medical coding. Okay, guys, there's a lot of other things you can do. Don't waste your time if that's something that it's going to trip you up, okay? Because anybody can do anything. We have a very entrepreneurial society that we live in. You don't necessarily have to get into medical billing and coding, all right? Because there's a lot of specific things. And while this is a great field and I love it, it's not meant for everybody, all right? Now, do I wish it was a little bit easier for people to get in? Yes, I do. But at the same time, I can understand the employer's hesitancy. This is why I tell new medical coders, bring your A game. When you're getting those tests, make sure that you are going to pass those tests so you can continue to study so that you can pass them. All right. If you cannot pass another type of screening, okay, because they will send you to a lab for a screening. All right. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And if you do any recreational thing, it doesn't matter to the company, because that makes you a liability to them. You cannot be under the influence when you are working. And if you say, well, no, this is for my condition, this is for that, you don't have to explain to me, guys. You do not have to explain to me. That employer is going to tell you no, because it is the same thing as if any other profession where people have, people have some sort of thing to do with other people. Like if a doctor went in and said, oh yeah, I do this, and I'm going to go into surgery. That's not going to work, right? It's the same thing with medical coders, because again, we have to be aware of everything that's going on. Because if you sit there and you're all, under the influence, and you don't pay attention to what you're doing, it can lead to so many mistakes. And it could lead to potentially losing information. And you don't want to do that. And you do not want to be a part of that. Because violating HIPAA is a big problem. All right. So that's something that if that's something that you do, guys, I'm telling you what, they're going to find it. They're going to find it. So that's another reason that people don't get hired, is because they can't pass that type of screening. Okay. So I'm just saying that. Now, the other thing is tobacco use. For some facilities, they will test you to see if you use tobacco. Some facilities, like the facility down the road from my hospital, if the employee comes on and they smoke cigarettes, they say, okay, well, we'll give you 6 months to quit. And if you can't quit, then you're fired. Because they say if they're taking care of you and giving you health insurance, they don't want to have that added liability because you are doing something like smoking cigarettes. It's very serious to them. So there is a very serious and strict rule at that facility that they do not have smokers. Okay. And if they do have a smoker, they're going to help them to quit. Okay. So that's something that you need to know right out of the gate. With my facility, you cannot have tobacco products on campus, period. They are very strict about that. So, it's just a thing that they have, guys. And when you think about it, they are responsible for you. And so, just because that's what you want to do, you can apply it another place where that's okay, So you want to be sure to ask these questions. The other thing is getting shots. Some people are very sensitive about the shot issue. I'm not going to sit here and debate anybody. So don't even come at me with any kind of debates. I'm telling you what a lot of these facilities are doing. And they do expect their people to have these things. For a lot of facilities, it's not just those vaccines, it's other vaccines as well. So if vaccines is an issue for you, that's another thing that you need to know. That could potentially hinder you from getting a job in medical coding. All right. Because this one lady, she commented, she had spent $5,000. She had a loan for $5,000 to start in the medical billing and coding program. And when she asked me about it, she said, well, I don't see that in the job listings. Well, in the job listings, if you notice in some of them, you'll see that they say, oh, candidate must know ICD-9 CM. This means that place is using a template. And a lot of times they're just telling HR, hey, we need you to find us medical coders. So HR pulls the ad for medical coder that they had since 1999 and they put it out there. That's why it still says ICD-9 on it. So that's something that you need to know. I mean, we don't use ICD-9 anymore, period. But it's not going to show on there that that's required. So that's another question that you'll have to ask if that's an issue for you. All right. But it is required by a lot of facilities. There are some that I have seen that they say that right in the description. Okay. And there are others that I know at that facility, they do require it, but it's just not in their job listing because they haven't updated the job listing itself. Okay. So they will let you know this when you are like in the onboarding process, or even when you're in the interview process, really. You can ask them that question then if that's a deal breaker for you. Okay. But just know that it is required at a lot of places. All right. Because you even have to get a TB test too. So, that's just something that you need to know. I'm just saying. But yeah, so those are some of the main reasons. And of course, I'm going to close it out with this. Your resume. If your resume is terrible, meaning that you are sending out 3 or 4 or 5 page resumes, and you don't have your credential next to your name, and you do not have your training or anything like that, you just have all the jobs that you ever worked since the 90s, right? And again, I've always said, if you are going to send a resume out, it needs to be 10 to 15 years back on the resume. If the employer needs a longer history than that, they will let you know. But the resume is just supposed to be a glimpse of who you are. If you are copying off that resume that's floating around on the internet that says NCD, LCD edits, I would pass that resume over too. Because that says that you didn't do it. Somebody else did it. And so that's the thing, guys. You need to put on there your training, all the skills that you have. And you don't have to say excellent, ICD-10-CM, proficiency. No, you don't need to do that. On your skills, ICD-10-CM, CPT, HCPCS, ICD-10-PCS if you have that. So having a good resume goes a long way. I do resume rewrites. My rate is in the description box below. I will be taking hiatus from resumes for about a month. So if you need it, if you need your resume done, I will probably be taking the last order for November, probably by November the 19th. And then after that, I'm going to be on hiatus for a little while. And then I will let people know when I'm back. But right now I am booked. I do have a few slots remaining, but again, I will be on hiatus for a month. So, and for resume writing, just saying. But yeah, if you're interested in that, my rate is in the description box below. But resumes are very important, and they can be done by yourself. You can do them. I do have my resume tip videos, so be sure to check those out, because resumes, they're going to be your calling card. They're going to be what the employer sees first of you. And be sure to send in a cover letter too. Cover letter, it doesn't need to be a regurgitation of your resume, but it does need to say, why do you want this job? Okay, so a little something more about yourself, so that way it'll draw them in. So there's a lot of reasons, again, that people don't get called, but that's one of the number one reasons, is that resume is terrible. So make sure that your resume is good. Check out my resume tip videos. And so that way, again, you can have some footing when you're getting out there and setting yourself up for success. But guys, don't think of it as, I can't get hired because they just don't want to hire new people. They do hire new people. You just have to be persistent. And you have to look at other job listings, as far as like, not just under medical coder, but look under health information tech, medical records tech. Those types of job listings are going to be the ones that are looking for medical coders, because medical coders get called different names. Okay, I'm just going to leave that out there. But don't blame the industry. It's just something, it's business, guys. That's all it is business. And they want you to be prepared. So if you are prepared, you're going to have a higher chance of being able to get in. But don't give up. And you have to make sure that you're out there, you're actively applying. And get registered with a temp agency. I'm always going to advocate for that, because that's how I got my start. So I'm just going to leave it right there. But best of luck to you out there. Keep with it, stay with it, and you will find what you're looking for. I'm just saying. So if this video helped you, please like and subscribe and share, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.